So you're like just channeling Jeremy Piven's crazy mindset at the time?
Yeah.
Oh, he was so good in it.
Yeah, he was good. He seems like to not have aged a day in all the time, and he was really good. He was very funny when he came into the editing room to check out the cuts. And
was it like the butt shot?
Well, that's the other thing, was that he asked, so has there been any problems with my performance? And we had been submitting to the MPAA, and indeed they had no problem with the violence, which really surprised us, but they had a little bit of problem with the nude shot of his butt. So I said something about, well, I think, you know, your hairy ass may be scaring people. And he got very, very quiet. About a half hour later, he said, so you think my ass is really a problem?
The first cut, the first cut, the first cut.
I'll just teach you simple cuts to start with.
Welcome back to Craft Truck in the Cut. We're here with Dan Lebental, picture editor.
One film on your credit list that is one of my big favorites is Very Bad Things.
Well, you are a sick girl, aren't you?
Yes, I am. You know, you think it's going to be lighthearted and it gets darker and darker and darker, and it's so amusing and amazing.
Yeah, it's...
Was that fun?
Well, it was fun. It was Peter Berg's first film, and he would go, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm a rookie. And then we just kind of say, well, here's what we're doing. But what was interesting about it is I always thought that that movie was kind of about the sort of, I don't know, middle-class nightmare of making one mistake and your entire life unraveling.
Very Bad Things is almost like the original Hangover, like a dark version of the Hangover. Have you heard that?
Well, I was suggested for the Hangover, and I said, well, this will never work. I've already done this movie, and I can tell you it won't make a dime.
Wow, you kind of knew. You're like, no, this is
and then it's like,
the best.
Well, you know, but it goes to show you that movies in general are about timing. When you put out a movie, you could put out the same movie in 2 different years and it would have a complete different response to the audience. And that's an indication, I think, you know, in a way, Very Bad Things is even darker, and because, you know, Pete was willing to go all the way on that, but than the Hangover, that is. But I just think if you transpose the years, it would have still, you know, they were ready for that kind of movie. Yeah. To tell you one thing, one more thing on that is that the editing wise, the most complicated sequence is actually where the stripper gets skewered on the thing, because it's a cross-cut sequence between the activities in the bathroom and the joy of the party going on, and trying to get it to have an escalation and then a peak and then sort of a downbeat so he comes out. So that was a challenging one, because they're not written that way. They don't say in the writing, you're gonna cut here, we're gonna do this, then you're gonna cut, then cut back. They just sort of generally say this is happening and this is happening. And then it's the editor's job to find a way to fold them in.
So I wanted to talk about a dark movie called From Hell.
From Hell.
Hell.
Very hellish. One of the kind of interesting stuff, though, that I had to do were things like the dream sequences, where their description to me was that they wanted to feel related to, you know, the early pre-movie movies, you know, those experiments and the flicker things that people would, you know, Nickelodeons watch and stuff. And so I went down this very long rabbit hole into this, and literally was chopping frames in here, and just like, if you look at that thing frame by frame, it's scary. It's some scary images.
It's some like Frankenstein.
It is, but you know, on a visual level, that was some of the best work that I've been associated with. Yeah.
Is it on Very Bad Things that you first
kind of clicked with Jon Favreau?
Yeah, that's where we met, and he was really hot as a writer and looking to direct. And then he contacted me a few times after, once to do a pilot that didn't work out, but eventually we did connect. Then afterwards, on to Elf.
Yeah, Elf. Oh my goodness.
Canadian shot. That's why it's so good.
Yay, Canadian,
You know, one of my principal things on that movie was that there was a layer of cynicism that I actually stripped out right away, and I realized it wanted to play younger, and that was controversial while we were making it, to the point where you know, there was definitely people who thought we were really blowing it, and it was very tense for a while. And I remember I have a sister who lives in England, and she was asking me, "What's happening?" "Well, I'm going through this and this, and people think I'm not doing this thing right." And she said, "Well, what are you working on?" "Oh, a Christmas movie for kids." You know, it's like,
no one would think that would be stressful.
No, it can be. Especially, it's, you know, you're making these movies, it's in July, and you're listening to Christmas songs all day.
But I guess what people maybe don't think about first is it's sensitive content because of the target market. So you have to still make it funny, still make the parents want to see it, but also...
Yeah. Well, that film also was a kind of a personal miracle for both me and Favreau. I had it happen early in my career when I was in music videos, but that was the first all-out hit film that I worked on. And the interesting thing about a hit film is that if it smells like it could be a hit, they won't give it to you unless you've done a hit before. So it's a catch-22. The only way to get to work on hit films is to have made a hit film. But if they think it could be a hit film, forget it. So what you have to do is get it on a film that's supposed to be some little thing and have it go...
It's like a sleeper.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It has to go big.
Yeah.
And so that film did, and it was an amazing moment out of our, you know, all this angst of, you know, the people who said we're making it too young and making it wrong. We were actually put in front, the preview process. Well, John it was only his second film as a director, and he came into the office, and I had already done, you know, 10, 11, 12 films by then, and he said, "It's great, we're going to have 2 previews the same day." And I said, "Well, but what does your contract say? Doesn't it just say you get 2 previews?"
In total?
Yeah. So he said, "Oh, that seems like they want to throw us out." So what happened is we put it in front of this audience, and they started off, the early audience was kids with their families, right? And they just loved it. They just loved it. They put it in front, and they were so happy to be watching this movie, and that's such the rewarding moment the first time you put it in front of an audience, to have them feel that way, and it was so great. Okay, and then I look at the line for the evening show, and it looks like we're going to a Metallica concert. There's guys with rings in their noses and tattoos. It's like, this isn't the audience for Elf. What's going on? Are they stacking the deck against us? But then the part 2 of the miracle happened. We put it on, and they roared. It was as big as the early audience was. This audience was just 3 times as loud, just laughing and roaring, and it was crazy. And so it was like, I remember, you know, leaving that, and then all the executives are lined up on the side, and I go to the creative exec. I walk up to him and he goes, "Good job, really good job." I go, "Yeah, well, seemed like, you know, you guys might have been a little unhappy and wanted to see a change." And he goes, "Yeah." That's my Elf story.
Oh, man. We got the delinquent teenager vote. This is good to go.
Well, then they call those movies a 4-quadrant movie, meaning that all the age groups and demographics want it.
I even though I'm an adult, I still love those kind of kids movies. I'm not afraid to say it.
You're oppressed.
Yeah, probably. Oh, geez, he knows. So continue along with, I mean, I feel like you and Jon Favreau are like BFFs for sure.
Well, we're more like an old married couple than BFFs, really. We bicker.
So not friends.
Yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, it's like, you know.
Like,
but
you just know each other that well that it makes sense to keep collaborating.
Yeah, because what it becomes is that you find somebody that shares your sensibilities and that you can stand to be in a room with for 6, 8 months or longer.
You went on to do Cowboys and Aliens as well, which I loved. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Do you have any fun stories about working on that film?
What was really cool for me was